So, welcome to Beauty of Colors podcast, Pearl. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. So, tell the listeners about you and what was the driving force of you becoming a school counselor?
So, um, I went to school for psychology very early on. I knew that I didn't have a lot of talents. I didn't play sports. I wasn't a cheerleader. I wasn't very active as a child. But I knew that I had a way with people. I knew that I understood people. I knew that I could relate to people, and I really enjoyed just being able to analyze and dissect people and relationships. So I went to school for psychology. At first, I wanted to be a mental health therapist. I was going to school to be a therapist, and I was going to have my own private practice, and that was my trajectory and my plan. And when I was getting my master's, I interned at a high school, and I loved it. I loved the hustle and bustle of the kids and the environment and working with all different types of people, not only the counselors, but the teachers. And it was an office environment, but then you also had the layer of the students and the parents. And it was very exciting, and it gave you that direct connection to be able to help young people. So during that internship, I immediately saw my advisor and said, I want to add school counseling. So I actually ended up dual majoring in the mental health and the school counseling. So right away after I graduated, my advisor for the internship, he had just happened to have a friend who was a school counseling director at a high school who was looking for a counselor, and I was hired. So I worked at this high school for 10 years, and it was the most exciting time. It was wonderful to get my career started there. I learned from some amazing seasoned counselors, and then I started to see a shift. I started to see a shift in the mental health of our youth. A lot of depression, a lot of suicidal ideation. And I was so young. Here I am. I started working when I was 26, 27.
Mhm.
Um, and fast forward 10 years, I was burned out. I was bringing everything home with me emotionally. And I knew that it was time for a change. I mean, after 10 years, I knew that it was time. And, the universe, I always say, is going to present to you everything that you need at the exact time that you need it. And so, in the midst of me just trying to figure out what I was going to do for the following year, is this where I want to stay? I am just distraught. Um, I get an email out of nowhere from a colleague that I just have met, in the counseling circles. And he said, I have an opportunity that you may be interested in. Give me a call. And it just so happened to be a school counseling director position at another school. And I was so ready and anxious to step out of where I was that I just jumped into what came.
Mhm.
And I think that my biggest mistake in that, and I don't regret making that leap, but I didn't take the time to really settle into the thought of what that would look like. So I was just focused on getting out and not really paying attention to what I was getting myself into. And so emotionally, I was not armed nor prepared
Mhm.
for the self-sabotage, is pretty much what happened. Everyone that I went into working with, the new school was great, the administration was great, everybody was super supportive. They were so happy to have me. And the one person that didn't believe in me was myself.
Mm.
And I went into a situation where we talk about imposter syndrome, right? Um, and if you think about it, I was a counselor for 10 years, directly working with students. And here I am, a director. I no longer have a caseload. I am managing and overseeing a department of 4 counselors.
Mhm.
And so I lost a great sense of my purpose.
Mhm.
And it that also contributed to, am I am I doing the right thing? Is this the right place for me? And so I was terrified. The
Mhm.
fear and the anxiety and the pressure, that sheer pressure of, now you're in a leadership role. Now everyone is looking to you for the answers and the guidance. And what if I make a mistake? What if I do something wrong? What if something goes wrong and I just ruin a kid's life? Right? I mean, it's like the doom and gloom
Mhm.
scenarios that we make up in our head. Um, and that was a very, very difficult time for me because, like I said, I I wasn't prepared. I wasn't ready to handle that. Um, but what I did do was I started to I started to kind of self-destruct in a way because I was trying to escape the feelings of anxiety and the feelings of that pressure and the feeling of failure, that something could just go wrong at any minute. Every time something new came up, okay, now I have to, because I was also in charge of all the testing, right? So you've got high stakes testing. It was it was incredibly, incredibly difficult. It was just such a crazy time, that I questioned everything. And this was no one else putting pressure on me. This was my own pressure on myself.
With you putting pressure on yourself, how did you create an environment for the students, for individuals, to help them feel empowered and valued? How did you do that?
Well, I think that I knew, even though I was carrying so much turmoil within myself, I knew that my biggest role was to empower my team. And so here I had 4 other women looking to me for the answers. And I knew what I didn't want to do. I had supervisors, leaders in the past, and I had an example of what I did not want to do.
Mhm.
And so I did, and I became the leader that I knew that I needed in those times when I was a counselor and I was struggling, or I needed, um, some type of leadership or guidance. So that was my game plan, really. And so what I started to do was I started to, arm myself and my own emotions. I began to listen to a lot of, self-help audiobooks, a lot of, just reading, um, for self-help, for just a positive mindset. And I'll tell you, one of the greatest books that really helped me a lot was The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Right?
I read it.
Um,
Yeah.
it's such a simple concept, but one of the things that stuck with me in that book was, you're selective with what you care about, right? You're selective. It doesn't mean that you don't care at all or you don't care about anything. But if you care about everything, then what really matters?
Mhm.
And so you have to put everything in its place and in its box, and you prioritize and you really care about the things that truly matter. And so that's where you decide, okay, my fear of what people are going to say if I mess up, take that out. That doesn't affect me. People are going to talk and they're going to have opinions, and I don't have control over that. So it was about controlling my controllables, and really focusing on my mental health and the way that I approach situations and my own mindset.
So, Pearl, where can the listeners get in touch with you? And do you have any resources about if someone wants to be a school counselor? How can you guide them in doing what you do?
Well, through the website at my workplace, the City of Pembroke Pines Charter School, our school counseling department page has a lot of resources through if you want to be a school counselor, if you want to get some mental health therapy, um, everything is there's a lot of resources and links to different things. And my email is also on there as well, and I welcome any questions on just any path that if someone is on trying to be a school counselor, that I can definitely assist anyone with that journey.
So, Pearl, do you have any last words for the listeners about staying motivated?
I would say focus on what you can control and focus on what you love to do and what brings you joy and drown out all of the noise. We live in a society where self-doubt is pumped into our everyday life. Everything that we see, everything that we watch, everything that we listen to, it's meant for us to doubt ourselves, how we look, how we feel about ourselves. We should be doing more, hustle culture. If you don't subscribe to it, if your spirit doesn't subscribe to it, then cancel that subscription.
Nicely said, Pearl. So, Pearl, thank you for being on Beauty of Colors podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.